Chapter 5. Lost Books of the Bible. Although we have 66 books in our Bible, there are many others that are missing, some of which are mentioned in the existing scriptures, but no one seems to know what happened to them, or why they were not included as part of the Bible. Many of these lost books are reported to be the words of God to some of his faithful prophets and patriarchs, so we must conclude that they are of great worth and would qualify to be considered scripture. It can also be concluded that there are many other missing books, also inspired, not mentioned in the Bible. It is obvious that wars, migrations, poor materials, persecution, and other pitfalls could have taken a great toll on many sacred and important texts of God's revelations to man. As explained by one scholar, the Jews, having been at some times careless and negligent, and at other times profane, they suffered some of the sacred books to be lost through their carelessness, and have burnt and destroyed others. St. Chrysostom, as quoted in Simon's critical history of the New Testament, the perils of book burning have not been confined to the dark ages of Christianity, but have apparently taken their toll since the beginning of mankind. Below are listed some of the books and references, showing that they could or should have been included in the Bible. The prophecy of Enoch, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, "Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all," etc. Jude 1:14. Scriptures before Abraham. The modern Christian world think that Moses was the first prophet to write scripture, or to write the law of the gospel among men. However, Paul understood differently when he said, "And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham." Gal. 3:8. From this it is evident that someone wrote scripture before Abraham's time. When Abraham read them and believed that gospel, he was convinced that God would justify the heathen through faith. Samuel's own book. Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up before the Lord. I Sam. 10:25. This is Samuel's record of the kingdom, and it would have been a very interesting and revealing book. Shemaiah the prophet, Book of Iddo, the seer. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet, and of Iddo the seer, concerning genealogies? 2 Chron. 12:15. This book of Shemaiah is one of the books of a prophet. When were the writings of a prophet considered unworthy of being kept? Is not every revelation through one prophet just as important as another prophet? This book undoubtedly contained many important things pertaining to genealogy, a subject so confusing and troublesome to the Protestant ministers today. The book of Nathan, the prophecy of Ahijah, the visions of Iddo, the seer. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Ahijah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer, against Jeroboam, the son of Nebat? 2 Chron. 9:29. These books must show or explain many things recorded from prophecy and in visions. They were probably very important and sacred, perhaps more so than many of the other books in the Bible. Book of Samuel, the seer. Book of Nathan, the prophet. Book of Gad, the seer. Now the acts of David the king, first and last. Behold, they are written in the book of Samuel the seer, and in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the book of Gad the seer. Ikron. 29:29. 3,000 Proverbs of Solomon. And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. I Kings 4:32. Obviously, we have only a small portion of the Proverbs of Solomon. If some of them were worthy of becoming scripture, why not all of them? It is evident that they have been lost, even though they would have been a great complement to the rest of his Proverbs. Another epistle of Paul's to the Corinthians. Paul wrote in his first epistle to the Corinthians, "I wrote you in an epistle not to company with fornicators." I Cor. 5:9. From this we know that his first epistle to them was actually his second letter. This epistle was undoubtedly just as important as the other two, but it has been lost. An epistle to the Laodiceans. And when this epistle is read among you, cause that it be read also in the church of the Laodiceans, and that ye likewise read the epistle from Laodicea. Colonel 4:16. The epistle of Colossians and the epistle to the Laodiceans were both important since Paul wanted them both read to the congregation. We have only the letter to the Colossians. Therefore, the epistle to Laodicea is one of the missing scriptures. Second epistle to the Ephesians. How that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words, whereby when ye read, ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ. F. 3:3. Paul alludes to another epistle to the Ephesians, in which he mentions a revelation that he had received from God. Would not that revelation be as important as other revelations that he had received, or as important as any revelation to the other apostles? Another epistle of Jude. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you, and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. Jude 3. Since we have only one epistle of Jude, wouldn't the other one concerning the common salvation be just as important as this one? The Pseudepigrapha, another group of manuscripts, written between the years 200 BC and 100 AD, has been found in recent years. They consist of 7 books covering a range of subjects from the creation to the Christian era. They have been published under the title of the Forgotten Books of Eden. These manuscripts have been found in Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, some handed down, while others were found in archaeological excavations. Some copies have variations from other manuscripts, but their messages are similar. A few summary statements about each of these books is included here. The books of Adam and Eve. The story begins after the expulsion from paradise and involves a variety of legends and religious concepts. It gives a very positive emphasis on the resurrection and the final judgment. The Book of Secrets of Enoch. This is a collection of psalms, histories, and quotations from Enoch. The Odes of Solomon. This is an early Christian compilation, first published in 1909, and is mostly a book of poetry with many beautiful expressions of reverence, love, etc. The Letter of Aristeas. This was written by a Hellenized or Greek Jew living in Egypt, probably Alexandria. It gives some light on how the Septuagint manuscript of the Bible came to be written. The Fourth Book of Maccabees. This covers the events of the Syrian persecution of the Jews and the Maccabean revolt. It concerns the ability to deal with and conquer the passions. The Story of a Hiker. This is probably the earliest manuscript of the collection. It was first found among some Aramaic papyri, dating back to the 5th century BC on the island of Elephantine in the Nile. It has a collection of both Jewish and pagan lore, and gives much credence to homage to honorable earthly rulers, a tenet objectionable to the Jewish community, who insists that only homage to God will bear merit. Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. This is of much interest because it contains early Christian attempts to rewrite Jewish tracts. Some of these predate Paul, but most interesting is the fact that some versions of this have appeared in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Similar to other manuscripts, they contain much about the struggle between good and evil, good works, compassion, etc. Although these works have never been considered worthy of a place in the Bible, they do give us some insights into Jewish and early Christian thought. There are also many historical events in the life of Christ of which we have no knowledge. John said, "Many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book." John 20:30. Those events would be of tremendous importance and worth to us now, but they are lost. John, the Apostle, gives further enlightenment on the loss of many teachings and important events in the life of Christ. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written everyone, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. John 21:25. There is a vast array of reasons for information and manuscripts to be lost. During 6,000 years, various texts and writings have been destroyed by every storm that man and the elements could bring upon them. It is fortunate that we have even the small portion of copies that we have. However, in recent times the Lord revealed to the prophet Joseph Smith another reason why this generation does not have some of these prophetic records. The Lord said, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, that there are records which contain much of my gospel, which have been kept back because of the wickedness of the people." D&C 6:26. Today's Christian believes that he has all the scripture that was ever given to man. He believes that the Bible is complete, that God has given all that he intends to give. The modern Christian couldn't receive any more scripture because his creeds forbid it. Thus, ignorance and shallow thinking have prevented multitudes of people from enjoying more enlightening and important scripture for these latter days.